But we all have our little lies. And I think it's very powerful to take a stance and say that I'm not going to do this anymore. And so I just thought, I know I'm going to want to eat, whether it's for boredom reasons or just sheer pleasure, but I'm denying myself of that food. And it brought me closer to my spiritual practices. I mean, fasting has been a part of all all religions, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism. It's been around since the dawn of time. So maybe it was there for a reason. Like, have we ever thought about that? Like, it heals the body. I just told you what it does for, metabolic health. Welcome to my podcast, I Think I Can. My intention for the podcast is for individuals to begin a transformational journey towards self-awareness and self-actualization. And I do this by telling my own story, as well as all the stories from my past clients. And I do this so that you too can feel safe knowing that change is available to you, but also so you can take more responsibility for your life in 3 specific ways: in your health, your self, and your wealth. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Hello, welcome back to I Think I Can podcast. Today I'm speaking all about health. You know me by now. I love speaking about health and self and relationships. It's all a system, right? And that's why I studied functional medicine and became a certified functional medicine practitioner, is because I realized the importance of connecting your health to, your gut health, your physical health to your mind. And I always had a passion for nutrition and exercise. So specifically, I'm going to speak about intermittent fasting. Now, for those of you who don't know what intermittent fasting is, well, you do know what fasting is. Everybody knows what fasting is. Intermittent fasting means not eating for certain periods of the time. So doing without any sort of food for an extended period of time. So intermittent fasting is really about, there's a lot of science that backs up intermittent fasting. Everything like related to mental clarity, to sleeping better, to blood sugar regulation. But I would say it's most known for its ability to improve metabolic health. So what does that mean? It really means how your body's running. It's just like a car. You want it to run the most optimally it can, because it's going to be more efficient. And it's going to be easier on the engine. In this case, this is our heart. So the whole idea of just eating within certain time periods and how it relates to your metabolism is that every time we ingest food, we are sending signals to the body. And this is all and hormones are really our communication system of the body. And in particularly, we're going to speak about the hormone insulin, and how this regulates our blood sugar. So every time we put food in our mouth, we are telling our body, we're telling insulin to be secreted from our pancreas and into the blood. And when insulin is signaled like that, our body knows to remove sugar from the blood and put it into the cell. This is a real, rudimentary way of describing this, by the way, guys. Other people can describe it a lot better, but I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm just going to give you it in real layman's language. So think of it like that. Every time you eat something, insulin is secreted and sugar is taken. Well, I shouldn't be calling it sugar. It's glucose. Glucose is taken away from the blood and put into the cell. And what this basically means is that it's a fat storing hormone. Insulin is basically a fat storing hormone because when we put glucose into the cell, it's signaling to the body that we must conserve energy. So this is the body's way of conserving energy in the form of fat, because fat is really, it could be considered a long burning type of fuel for the body. And so think of this as, rather than burning kindling or newspaper, we're going to burn a big old oak tree log. So it's a great way of the body to fuel itself. It's sort of a long, steady energy source. So again, when you think about the big old oak tree, it's there, it's slow burning. And the reason why that's important is because otherwise, if we're just surviving on the glucose in the blood, I mean, that can vary at any point in time. Sometimes, after ingesting a lot of food, there is a lot of glucose circulating in the blood. And we might feel like, to us, it feels like we have a lot of energy. At least if that's what you've sort of trained your body to do is, we have a lot of energy. But then, but that's not metabolically stable, right? And what happens if people rely on that kindling, on that quick fuel like that, when it drops, they're going to feel it. So what are they going to want to do? They're going to want to replenish it with more food. So that's why if people aren't metabolically healthy, sometimes they'll feel that. They'll feel lightheaded. They'll feel like, I need to eat right now. I feel lightheaded. I feel almost dizzy. And then they eat, and then insulin is secreted again from the pancreas. It shuttles glucose out of the blood again into the cell. And again, they feel, oh, I need to eat more. I need to eat more. So you see, like, you're getting into this sort of patterned way of eating that's always like glucose in the blood, glucose out of the blood, glucose in the blood. And you feel like you're constantly hungry. So what you want to do instead is give it that long burning, slow, like, energy that you can always tap into. So the way that we start training ourselves to do this is through intermittent fasting. That's just one of the benefits. So let's say we skip breakfast, and we might feel a little bit hungry, but then we manage to wait till like 10 or 11, and then we start to eat. So in intermittent fasting language, this is called opening up your eating window. So after opening up your eating window, there's glucose in the blood, and then you close your eating window after a certain period of time. When you first practice intermittent fasting, you're gonna play around with your eating window. But it doesn't really matter right now how, whether it's you eat for about 2 hours at a time, or maybe it's 5 hours. And I don't mean you're constantly eating the whole time. It's sort of like within this period of time, I'm telling my body I'm going to be eating. The whole point is the fasting piece, because we want to teach our body that we don't always constantly need to fuel it. So we're training our body to eventually, like when there's no more glucose in the blood, what we're now teaching, let's say you've gone without food for 8 hours and you would normally eat. Let's say after 8 hours, let's say you slept from, let's say you ate, up until midnight, and you went to sleep and you woke up and you broke your fast at 8 a.m. and you had breakfast. Well, now you're going to start teaching the body to do something different. You're going to not eat breakfast, and you're going to try to extend that fasting period. And what you're doing by extending the fasting period is you're teaching your body to not live off of the glucose in the blood, the energy there, but instead access your fat storage in your cells. So again, the fuel is now going to be directed to the log rather than the kindling. And you'll see that as you begin to do that, your body is going to become more and more metabolically healthy. And, at first it might feel uncomfortable. The first day or so, you might feel a little bit lightheaded. You might feel a little bit headachy. But you'll see that you can do it. Now, of course, I should tell you of what is actually fasting and what's clean fasting. So I said fasting is abstaining from food, but there's clean fasting and there's dirty fasting. People might think that fasting is actually drinking, maybe coffee with creamer. No, it's not, because the creamer will spike your insulin. You might think, well, I might just have a little bit of lemon in my water during the fasting. That's also going to spike your insulin. Basically, I mean, anything, so the whole point here too is that when you drink liquids like that, you're drinking it over a slow period of times, which means your insulin is being spiked over a slower period of time. I mean, yes, I guess you could down it all at one point, but then you're also spiking it quite high because you're ingesting that, whatever that extra flavor is that you want, the extra food, whether it's lemon or cream, you're ingesting it very quickly, which will also spike your insulin. So there's really no way around it. It's either water, it can be hot water, it can be sparkling water, but just nothing with a flavor to it. If it's coffee, it has to be black coffee. It can't be a flavored coffee. If it's tea, it can't be these whatever fruity teas or something like that. I mean, it has to be just straight up tea. So green tea would be fine, black tea would be fine, but nothing that's going to give the brain the response that this is something like a food substance. And so this is basically, I have to say, I did intermittent fasting for quite some time. I would say about 2 years ago. And it was very effective. Like I liked it a lot. And I'll get into the reasons later. I did lose some weight, and that's probably why I stopped. I don't know, because I'm not somebody, that wants to really lose weight or lose any significant amount of weight. But I did enjoy it for all the other benefits. And I'm not really sure why I started, or I stopped it, I should say. But I'm going to tell you why I started it again this time around. It's because, you know, okay, this is might sound odd, but okay, I do love sweets. And I notice, I think as a lot of people do, that after they have a meal, they like something sweet. I was brought up like that. I was brought up on desserts. And I feel fortunate for it because it brings back a lot of nostalgia for me. But when you're an adult, you can't keep on having dessert after every meal. So I thought, you know what, I still like my coffee after every meal, so I'm going to still have something sweet with it. And I just started having some sugarless gum. And it was good too, because, it takes that coffee taste out of your mouth and you feel like you have a fresh mouth. But I could tell, like, while I was drinking my coffee, I would also be having like sugarless gum constantly. And then it became like, no matter what time of the day, whenever I had coffee, and I love my coffee, although I have decaf first thing in caffeinated first thing in the morning, like sort of before 7. And then after that, I love my decaf coffee. And yeah, so, but like with decaf coffee too, I was constantly wanting the sugarless gum. And I just became addicted to it. Like I was chewing a lot of gum. And then, a few weeks ago, like I always knew, like, any sort of artificial sweetener is bad. But it's only when a more recent study came out about aspartame that I'm kind of going, I got to stop this. This is not good. Plus, I don't like the idea of just needing gum. It felt like it was a need, not an even desire. Like I needed it. Like, so I thought this is going to be really good for intermittent fasting. Like I never do, I haven't eaten breakfast for years. So it was just more of skipping lunch again. And often when I'm doing my work in my office, whatever, it's like, I'm not even really that hungry. Like, first of all, like I'm, at a more or less a desk job. Um, so it's not like I'm physically active that I'm hungry. So it was more like just a break. I just wanted a break during the day. And sometimes I was really hungry, but not often. So then when I go and eat my lunch, it's sort of, oh, I'm just going to have a snack because it's really just a mental break I wanted, right? But then when I started taking like something small, then I would add something else to it and add something else to it and add something else to it. And I'm just like, this is crazy. I wasn't even hungry. And now, like, I ended up eating a huge lunch. So, and then, I wanted something sweet after I eat. So I just thought, okay, this is a bad cycle. So this is going to be good for me, intermittent fasting. And now at the time that I'm recording this, I've done it just over a week. And I was surprised how easy it was, like just to get into it again. So I basically open up my eating window around 6 p.m. After my work day is done, and I just have a normal meal. I must say, the first few times I was like really looking forward to that meal and probably overate during the meal. But I'm also much more conscious about what I'm eating during the meal. I'm not going to, like, I really try to prioritize protein because I want something that's satiating, something that's going to, last throughout the next, hours of my fasting or whatever. And it was, my eating window sort of ended at 8 or 8:30, and that was easy. But now I'm realizing I should extend it more because, yeah, like I do feel hungry sometimes in the morning. But again, I'm just very new. Like week 1, you don't even know what you're doing. Like you're just playing around with it. So I don't want to speak on, what it's like, because I can't even describe what it's like, because I'm only on week 1. Ask me after 3 months of this or something, and maybe then I can tell you more. But that was one reason. The other reason is that, and so, yeah, I haven't touched sugarless gum since. Do I still crave it with my coffee? Yes, I do. Will that end eventually? I think it will. But like even during my eating window, I'm not having sugarless gum, because I just like, I know it's just, if I start having it with my coffee, I won't stop, and I just don't want to have the taste for gum period anymore. That's why I'm doing it. The other big reason I'm doing it, though, was more or less like a mindset thing. Like in my work as a coach and as a therapist, I'm all about harnessing the power of your mind. And I don't like to be controlled by any external force. I get to choose what controls me. And I'm not going to let frickin' like gum, food, or let alone gum, control me, right? Like, and this is all about any other addiction, like, whether it's cigarettes, whether it's alcohol, whether it's, like, let's face it. I mean, if everybody would stand, and own up to all their weird, like little addictions, I think we would have a huge, very honest society, but no one wants to admit it. But we all have our little lies. And I think it's very powerful to take a stance and say that I'm not going to do this anymore. And so I just thought, yeah, like, I mean, I know I'm going to want to eat, whether it's for boredom reasons or just sheer pleasure, but I'm denying myself of that food. And it brought me closer to my spiritual practices. I mean, fasting has been part of all, like, all religions, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism. It's been around since the dawn of time. So maybe, maybe it was there for a reason. Like, have we ever thought about that? Like, it's it it heals the body. I just told you what it does for metabolic health. It teaches your body to burn from fat rather than glucose. There's like, and I mean, this has been proven over and over as well, like how this helps to cure chronic diseases like cancer, because cancer cells love sugar. They love glucose. That's why they are able to I want to use the word like procreate. It's not procreate, but like just like whatever. You know what I mean? The word's not coming to me right now. It's probably because I ate dinner probably about 2 hours ago. If I hadn't eaten dinner, I think my mind would be much more on fire. But yeah, just grow at rapid rate. They're growing off of glucose. So it's used for those reasons. I mean, it's been proven with any sort of brain disease like Alzheimer's, dementia. It just gives you so much. It's like rocket fuel, to the brain, fasting, because, when you think of it, when you're digesting all the time, it slows down all parts of your body. So it just allows you to become a very well-oiled machine in terms of your mind and every other part of your body. So I really like the idea of doing it for that reason alone as well, is to show that I have self-sovereignty over my body. I have authority over my body. I get to choose, when to eat and what to eat, sort of thing, instead of, us feeling like we're manipulated by, the food industry, right? Like every advertisement, every billboard, every commercial. And that was the like it's also resetting the taste buds, like, because even like the sugarless gum, it wasn't just kind of sweet, it was sweet, like especially certain types of gum too. It's sort of like so sweet. And even stevia, like, which is a natural sugar, it's super concentrated sweetness. um yeah, like, to be honest with you, honey doesn't even taste that sweet when you think of it, compared to some of these things, some of these artificial, like, Coke, like Diet Coke, like all those, like, it's all chemical. Artificial sweeteners are chemicals, people. We need to really, like, stop distracting ourselves from the fact that we're putting chemicals into our body, like stuff that we could basically be spraying into the atmosphere, like chemicals, like on metal or whatever, right? Like, so yeah, for that reason alone, it was just very, very powerful. And to reset the taste buds, like to taste honey and not be like, whoa, that's sweet. It's just like, oh, that's sweet. What a treat. Taste a date. And like, you got to realize too, like, when sugar comes in its natural form, in terms of a whole fruit or any other type of, however else something sweet shows up in food, it's in whole form. And surrounded by that sweetness is a whole lot of fiber. Think of an orange, think of an apple, think of even grapes are super sweet, but at least there's still some fiber to that, rather than straight on table sugar, for example, that has zero fiber. And fiber is going to, again, help slow down the digestion of that food. Think about what I said about the oak log. Anything that slows down the digestion process means that the insulin will not spike as high. So you got to realize, whenever there's high and lows in terms of glucose in the blood, you're going to feel like, when you're in the low, you're going to feel like, oh my God, I need something right now. I need to eat. I need to eat. It's sort of like, look out, like I'm hangry, right? And you never want to be that way, because you're going to end up stuffing your face when, there's no need for that. And you're going to regret it later. You just always want to be on a very stable level with your insulin. So exercise, really, another, like, fiber is one way of slowing down, how quickly the insulin gets secreted. Exercise right after a meal is proven over and over. Something simple as a 10-minute walk can really bring your insulin down nicely. Fat combined with a natural sugar also slows down the digestion. So, for example, there's so many ethnic, ancient ways of eating that, you wonder, oh, that's an interesting dish. I wonder why they paired, that herb with that acid, with that oil or fat. It's all done in divine wisdom and ancient practices that just allowed your digestion juices to slowly be secreted. And that's why you can indulge in many of these, with these ancient ethnic recipes, because it's all there for a reason. Like, don't remove that herb. Don't, heaven forbid, substituting I don't know, like something that would be so natural. Like, that's why when they started messing up, like taking the fat out of food, that like totally messed up our metabolism. as a human. Like that makes no sense. Now you're genetically altering it. Like, why would you do that? And things like, sprouted bread, like these ancient breads, like there's a reason why bread was made that way. Instead of this ultra processed white flour and that kind of stuff, that turns directly into glucose, into sugar in the blood. When those simple carbohydrates like pasta, breads, pastries, cookies, heaven forbid these syrups, that they put in coffees and stuff like that. I mean, it all spikes your insulin so quickly, so high. And it because it just directly goes into glucose, into the blood. It converts right into glucose. It breaks down to glucose. So you might be thinking, you're doing yourself a big favor, having whole wheat bread. But I mean, if it's ultra processed flour, it's all going to end up into the same, molecule, which is glucose. So yeah, like there's a method to the madness. And I think I'm not saying everybody should jump on the intermittent fasting lifestyle, but I'm telling you I think everybody should try it and show themselves what they can actually do to control their metabolism, and become healthy again. And there will be some rocky days for sure. You might be, biting, holding on really tightly some of those days. But, you don't have to rip off the Band-Aid and jump into like a 3-hour eating window. I'm going to eat from 5 to 8. And, no, you can do it gradually. You can start by, eating breakfast at 10. Maybe the next week 11, maybe the next week 12, maybe the next week, after doing it at noon, you might think, you know what? I'm just going to try skipping this altogether and see. Oh, and then, you went till 4 o'clock and it was like, it wasn't that bad. You'll be surprised how powerful you are. And that's what I really want to remind my clients as well, is it's sort of like, hence the podcast, I think I can. There's a lot that you can do that you're not even aware that you can do. And but it's all about facing the fears. Like anybody who thinks that they're going to deny themselves of food, they're going to go into some sort of fear. Well, but I like that. Oh, but I love this. And oh, I like that. But if you can do it one day, you can do it 2 days, you can do it 3 days. And yeah, you just feel so good when you face your fears and realize you overcame them. There's nothing more satisfying in life just to show yourself the power that you have, the power you have in working in tandem with your mind, your heart, and your soul. When you have those three working together, working for you and rather than against you, in other words, you listen to your heart, you listen to your soul, and you use your mind, to leverage them all working together beautifully. Because, your thoughts create your feelings and emotions, and your emotions can turn on your hormones and they can turn off your hormones. So there's a lot of things you can be telling yourself, affirming to yourself when you think, you want to just go ahead and eat the cake. It's when you really slow down your mind and you honor self, you honor yourself, you do a lot for, loving yourself, you get to actually make the discernment between what's emotional eating and what's intuitive eating. Because, and not everybody agrees with this. Some people don't understand what intuitive eating is. They just think, oh no, I'm told that I want that cake. That's not your intuition. That's your emotions. That's you going back to being a child in your grandmother's kitchen who loved feeding you cake. That's nostalgia. That's your emotions. But if you really tapped and if you're connected with your intuition is telling you that, Luella, that's not self-love. You're not in alignment when you eat loads of cake like that. You're not in alignment when you're bored and you're eating. You're not in alignment when you're standing up, eating, rushing through and having 12,000 things on your mind while you're stuffing your lunch in your mouth. That's not intuition. That's like self-soothing through your emotions. You might as well stick a soother in your mouth if you're going to do that. Like, go back to your being in the crib and self-soothe that way. Just maybe try that. If you feel drawn towards a kitchen and you're trying out this intermittent fasting thing, like take a soother, throw it in your mouth, crawl up on the couch with a blanket and just kind of rock back and forth and it'll probably pass, yeah, there's a great amount of a difference between emotional eating and intuitive eating. So yeah, let's see. I think, and also like the whole idea of self-love is that we get to enjoy our food. That's the whole fasting and feasting sort of thing. Jesus fasted, Christ fasted, but he also feasted. And there's nothing wrong with feasting. It also shows you that you get to enjoy. You don't have to, you know, go 40 days and 40 nights. I mean, that's not for everybody, and I'm not even saying that you have to fast over 24 hours or 36 hours. If you want to try it one day, go ahead. But, you don't have to do it that way. So I want to remind you that I did interview a gal named Jen Stevens. I think it was episode 12. And Jen Stevens is brilliant at intermittent fasting. She's been doing it probably, what did she say now? I think it could be at least 10 years now. And she wrote a few wonderful books on it. I can't, okay, there was Fast, Feast, Repeat is a #1 New York bestseller. Then there's Delay, Don't Deny. So in other words, it's exactly what I just said to you. You don't have to do without, you just delay, but you don't have to deny yourself. She has a couple great podcasts, and one is Intermittent Fasting Stories, where people come on the podcast and tell the listeners about their story with intermittent fasting. There's another one called, she just started it, Fast, Feast, Repeat. And then there's something else. Like that's not the entire name, but it's part of the name. So you can search those two up if you're interested in it. And anyway, like my role in this is just, I just love showing people how they can have control over their mind rather than their mind control them. And this is just another way. I'm all about showing people that they can become uncomfortable and they can get to the other side, showing people that they can be very uncomfortable and they're still going to be okay. Teaching people to face their fears and overcoming their fears and having that a real natural part of their life. To use a lot of self-trust to have faith without evidence. That's what I'm all about. That's what my work is all about. And that's what my offers are really all about in the coaching field. Is I want to show you the power that you have within you. So with that, I will call it a day. And I also will be interviewing Jen in the coming future very soon again for round number 2. So stay tuned for that as well. All right, everyone, have a wonderful week. I hope this was insightful. And again, if you enjoyed it, please share, rate, or review. Until then, I'll see you and have a great week. Bye-bye. Thanks once again for joining me on another great episode of I Think I Can podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe below so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And until next week, treat each day like it was your last, because each new day is a privilege that we shan't take for granted. Cheers and have a great week. Bye-bye.